Hello, this is a new video where me and my friend Simon Booth discuss cryptids.
Okay.
Right, mate.
Right.
What is a cryptid?
What is a cryptid? That's quite an easy one to answer. It's they're very diverse. It could be anything that people say doesn't exist, but is animal-like or creature-like or anything like that. I thought I'd turn that down, but never mind. Creature-like or anything like that. For example, some of the classic examples of cryptids are the Loch Ness Monster.
Yeah.
There you go. The old Nessie, who's been spotted quite a lot. She isn't on her own. There's lots of lake monsters like Champion in America and things like that. Champion is basically the spitting image of Nessie.
Really?
They are
That's interesting.
absolutely, the sightings and things like that are almost identical when you see them. Photographs, etc.
That's intriguing.
So and there's lots of them all over the world.
Yeah.
Any big lakes, you'll tend to get some sort of monster or some sort of story of a.
Do we know which one came first?
Nessie's probably the earliest one, to be perfectly honest with you. Although I think on some of the stuff that I've watched, some of the American ones do go back to sort of Native American times and things like that. So they probably go back even further, to be honest with you. But I suppose Nessie does, but it's just
when it's
well, they're sort of documented from sort of 30s and 40s, weren't they? When cameras first started coming around, and we could get sort of national newspapers or things like that. That's when it sort of took off. But I'm sure there were lots and lots of sightings. Prior to that. So a cryptid can be anything, to a degree. They're not things like you might see on churches like griffins or gargoyles or unicorns.
Sure.
Although some people might say that they are, but they're more made up sort of bits of other animals put together to form another animal, like a griffin.
Not fairies.
We may come on to fairies in a little while. We may come on to. We may just.
I'll let you lead.
We may just touch on fairies. Another one. So when I say cryptids to you, then
when you say it to me,
I
would say it's a fantastical thing. I think of Bigfoot, right? I think there's one animal, and it's only one, and it's been seen sporadically, but then all these little stories seem to be describing the same thing, and there's very little evidence, and so it's more just for fun.
Okay.
I don't know what evidence is out there.
Alright, so I like this because we're coming from, because we've both been out looking for spirits, looking for ghosts, trying all sorts of apparatus to try and catch evidence. We've been doing this, goodness knows how long between us. When we think about it, probably the group that we're with and the people that we know, I would say we're probably one of the most experienced groups in the country, if elsewhere, to be perfectly honest.
Certainly a long time,
because the stuff we do. Now, I've done that, and I came into that extremely sceptical.
Yeah.
I wanted to prove it. I wanted to prove it scientifically to myself. I wanted to do it all that way. And as you know, you started with the scientific side, but you were not adverse to things like Ouija boards and other methods, which is something that I, at the time, wasn't that comfortable with, but adopted quite readily.
Yes.
And it's been a great tool.
Yeah.
I think I have got to the point now where, personally, I don't need any more proof.
Yeah.
I know that I've proved to myself that these spirits there, that these ghosts there.
Yeah.
The amount of stuff we've seen, the amount of evidence that we've got, it might not convince anybody else, possibly wouldn't stand up in a court of law. I think it would be we could put a good case together.
Yeah.
But whether it'd stand up, but to me, there's enough now that I've like almost ticked that box. In that I don't still enjoy doing it, and I need more questions to ask, and need more investigations to do. But I sort of thought, what can I look at next?
Yeah.
And this phenomena is quite strange, really, because again, you mentioned Bigfoot. That's the biggie, isn't it? That's the big guy. That's the one that everybody talks about, you know.
Now, Bigfoot and the Abominable Snowman are different, right?
Possibly, yes.
Sasquatch.
Right. Well,
different.
In America, right, every state almost has its own type of Bigfoot.
Okay.
So there's, you know, the swamp man, all sorts of things. The yodeler, the whistler.
Wow.
There's all sorts of different names. In general, I would say that they're just different names for the same creature. And I think that people are just. It's like when you go to the fish and chip shop, and round here we have scone and chips, which is potato with fish in, battered. You go somewhere else, it's cake and chips.
Yes.
You go somewhere else, and it's, and it's, or tea cakes. It's not a tea cake, it's a pound cake. It's not a pound cake, it's a stotter.
So are we talking about, when you say it's the same creature, do you mean it's around different places, or do you mean it's one singular?
It's the same species.
Yeah.
I would say.
Okay.
I would say it's the same species of creature. When you say it's the same creature, there's a lot more than just one.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm fairly convinced with some of the research that I've done, with some of the programs that I've watched.
Yeah.
And let's face it, some of the programs out there are terrible. The not wanting to put certain programs down, but there's fake evidence in there. They're there as a television program.
Yeah.
To entertain, and that's what brings the figures in, etc., etc. But within that, there is some of the science that is quite interesting and quite good, and they do bring certain experts in that really, can have an impact and do make a big difference. So let's start with Bigfoot then. Let's start with Sasquatch or Bigfoot. I prefer Sasquatch or Bigfoot to the Whistler or whatever. But what do you know about what's your?
Well, I don't know where it is even based. I'm thinking it's in America. I'm thinking it's in Iran, a very remote.
It's always in remote places, but America is huge. North America's huge, right up to the Canadian border. To be honest with you, anywhere there's woodland, people have had sightings. So from west to east, from north to south, there's been. I mean, the Rockies and Colorado, places like that they're the known grounds for this.
I thought it was the Rockies.
But it's anywhere that's remote, like you say.
So you get loads of mountaineering people who might come across some weirdly desiccated animal bodies, or just plain think they see something, and it's so far off they don't know what it is, and then I don't know at what point the little bit of footage that is always shown came around.
It goes back to even earlier than that. Again, the Native Americans have a lot of stories about the man from the woods, the woodman, the cob, as do the what we used to call, it's a bad term, but the native Canadians that were known to we used to call them Eskimos or whatever you want to call it. Again, they have really major stories in their history going back, even to things like they'll incorporate in their artwork on the totems, in the totem poles, and things like that. There'll be the wild man from the woods,
right,
or the man from the woods, etc., etc. stories, old folklore even, that came down from Native Americans about they'll come and steal children at night and things like that. A bit like we have with the bogeyman and this,
we know that doesn't exist.
Well, we do know that doesn't exist, but let's... But it is, those stories have gone back a long, long time. And when you say people find, nobody ever really has found any remains.
Okay.
So what does that say to you? That would be like for you to say, well, that's a good point in saying that they don't exist then.
You would think, what does this thing eat?
It's an omnivore.
So it eats anything it can?
It's like a bear or like us. They do, from study and from research, they do take deer.
Yeah.
They will take anything really that they can get hold of.
So it's fast, because to catch a deer...
It is sneaky.
Right. It doesn't have a gun, so...
So they've found, structures and things have been found where game trails have been altered slightly. So that anything going on a game trail, there may be some bushes or some brush built up, so it has to go this way.
Okay.
And they'll be hiding in a spot where the deer comes past.
Are we saying it's hyper intelligent?
It's very intelligent.
Intelligent enough to be aware of us?
It's very intelligent, yeah.
It hides on purpose?
It hides on purpose. And it shows itself sometimes on purpose.
Okay.
I think it can be caught out.
Yeah.
And I think the Patterson film shows that, the classic film. But we'll come back to that because that's quite some new evidence of the old evidence has recently been brought up on that. But they are very intelligent.
But how old is it then? It's been decades and decades.
Well, the living family groups, the breed.
Right, so there are a lot of them.
Yeah, honestly, it's... And you're like, oh, but they never find bodies and they never do that. How many pigeons are there in the street?
Yeah.
How many times have you seen a dead pigeon?
Yeah. But that's not a lot of protein for a family.
How many times have you seen baby pigeons?
Yeah, you don't.
And how many thousands of them are?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
And these things are good at hiding. That's what they do. That's how they blend in. You see like the snow leopards and things like that. You could be stood next to one. Rattlesnake, you could be stood next to one.
Yeah, that's absolutely true, yes. You don't know. You pick up a rock and there's loads of life under there and you're like...
Exactly, and you don't know it's there. But these things are big.
Now, are they human or are they bigger?
They're bigger.
Right, 6 foot, 7 foot.
Usually when you get reports, it's 7 foot or more than 7 foot. Generally though, and again we'll come back to this, generally I think from the research I've done, from the stuff that I've watched, when you get in them that large, they are male. I tend to think a lot of the ones that are seen like that on their own are probably males that have outgrown the family group and are off to wander to find land for themselves, perhaps a mate, perhaps to start another family group, and that's why you see them sort of singularly wandering off on their own, or they're often on sort of hill lines. You'll see them on hill so that they can dart either way.
Yeah,
they're very, very, very intelligent. Structures have been found to the degree of branches that will be put in a certain order, like a cross, as if to say this is our territory. They have found, well, people will say, nests, and these nests have been checked, and they look very similar to like big gorilla nests and things like that gorillas would make. What else in that area would make a nest as big as that.
And this is not the habitat for a gorilla, right?
And this is not there's absolutely no large apes in America. There's just absolutely isn't.
Yeah.
You know, there's no such thing.
So a bear can walk on two legs.
It can for short distances.
Yeah. But
it's not comfortable on two legs. It'll walk on two legs to reach up for something, to claw at a tree, to show, things like that, to try and get insects from under the bark,
right,
etc., etc. But they're not comfortable on two legs, and they're not very fast on two legs either.
Yeah.
So it is, a bit, different to a bear.
So people think there's something out there, but what is the evidence that has been captured?
Right. You often see footprints.
Of course, I didn't think of that.
There's the footprints, people take plaster casts and things like that.
Yes.
Again, you have to be careful because a bear, as it's walking on all fours, can do what is called a double lay. So its front foot will make an imprint, and then as it brings its back foot, it makes an imprint to make it look more elongated.
Yes.
To make it look more like a big footprint.
Good point.
But that is something that you have to look for. But people are looking for it. The real people who are into it can tell the difference.
Yeah, they'll know bear tracks.
Yeah, it's when you see them and you actually see 5 digits.
Yeah. Okay.
Etc. And from that they can work out how tall these creatures are when they're walking. And generally, when you find footprints from a singular Bigfoot, they're about 7 foot tall.
Yeah.
So rounded about the age where they will be leaving family groups, etc., etc.
Right.
Because they're big enough to get off on their own.
Yeah, they're quite frightening to find some huge footprints.
It would.
But I wouldn't jump to Bigfoot, but I'd be thinking, what the hell made that, I suppose.
I also think that probably those creatures that you leave them alone, and they tend to just not be interested in you at all. They don't like you in their territory. If they think that you're causing problems in their territory, then they will react. And there's been lots of stories of people having stones thrown at them and sticks thrown at them.
Okay. So no one's been chased down like a bear would?
People have been chased.
They have been chased by a...
But not to the point of... Not with Bigfoot.
Okay.
We could go to something else a little bit later. But tends to be that Bigfoot generally seems to be... sort of doesn't want to hurt people. He doesn't want to, do anything of that. I suppose if they were put in a corner they would do, but, in general there's been no sort of attacks, although a lot of walkers do go missing. There's a lot of people who go missing in areas that are never found.
So no one's chased one down?
Nobody's ever been able to chase one down, no. There were a big thing, it was around the gold rush time of the 1920s, and these guys had found what they thought were a really good gold spot up this ravine. They wouldn't tell anybody else, obviously, where it was, but they were chased out of that. By more than one.
Okay. Yeah. And they reported these...
They came down, there were a press report about it, etc., etc.
Yeah.
And they said there were wild men, they called them wild men, that were throwing stones and boulders and basically smashed their cabin up, and there'd no option but to leave.
You say wild men, I suppose there are tribes of people out there.
Possibly.
Aren't there? And they don't have, mind you, they're very hairy, aren't they?
They're always reported with hair. The other thing a lot of people report as well is a smell.
Okay.
A really...
Well, homelessness.
Rank.
They live outside.
A really rank smell. But again, I tend to think possibly it's something that want to give off at times, rather than giving it off all the time. Because if you give it off all the time, I want to catch deer would be. Right. Oh, there's a Bigfoot around here. I can smell it.
Yes.
So I tend to think that it's more of a perhaps a nervous reaction, and it happens because it's it could be that, or they could choose to do it a bit like a skunk does to warn people off.
Yeah.
Or this is my territory. This is my so there's that as well.
Now that brings me on to droppings.
Yeah, people do say that they've found scat.
Yeah.
As they call it in America, scat. But it is, again, it's where they go. A lot of DNA testing now. They do a lot of DNA testing, and it's quite interesting. They'll go to this was more of a Yeti one. They went to a big expedition. Went to this just really big lake and a mountain lake or whatever, and they'd have to get it with a little kingdom. I'm just trying to remember what it is. It wasn't can't remember the king. It'll come back to me. But they had to get special permission. There's only about 4,000 or 5,000 people live in this kingdom, and they had to get special permission. It's just on the edge between Russia and China, or where it's like in a little principality all of its own, and they had to get royal decree to let them go up to this part, because nobody goes up to this part. And what they did, there's this new DNA sampling that you can take a sample of water, and you only need like a drop of water, and it can give you whatever animals or whatever have been in that water.
Okay.
And it came out quite interesting. There were some goats that they didn't know were there, etc., etc. And although there've been absolutely no human beings in that area, human DNA.
Right.
So, are we that close?
Yeah.
Are they that close a match? I mean, look at chimpanzees, how close chimpanzees are.
Yeah.
How close orangutans are on the DNA match.
I actually saw a video of a dog that had, on Facebook that had learnt to walk on its back legs. It just walked around like a human.
Yeah.
And stood looking out the window.
Yeah,
it's
like,
amazing. It doesn't have the right biology to be mistaken as anything but a
dog. But it is an interesting one. Right, going back to the famous film.
Yeah. Is there only one?
No, there's lots of films. But the one that everybody talks about, the Patterson film.
It looks like a gorilla
costume. Yeah, that's great. I'm glad you said that.
Doesn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. I am absolutely really pleased you said that. Right. This guy had other sightings prior to this, and he'd been out for about a fortnight, or the two of them, they'd been out for a fortnight, to getting near end of turning round and coming back, and all of a sudden came across this creature. Yeah. Now, if you see the original footage, it's all over.
Is it?
It's really shaky. So it's all been the ones that when you look at it on, and I would urge everybody to have a look. When you have a look at it on the internet, it has been stabilised.
That might be the one that I put on Instagram today.
Yeah, it might be.
It was the video of the photos you sent.
And it walks like that, and then it sort of looks
like
that, and it sort of carries on into the woods. It has recently been looked at again. There's a new Bigfoot program on TV that some people say is great. Some people say it's a bit
divisive.
Well, to me, I think they've put some really good experts together. But I think then when they go into the woods to look for something and they hear something, and white light torches come on, what's the point? Yeah. It's like you just got to scare everything away. So it's a bit, to me. But there is some good stuff in it, and they've got this chap who is, I think he's in his late 60s, early 70s, and he's worked on special effects for films from sort of early Star Wars right up to modern day.
Yeah.
And they've said to him, and obviously as technology gets better, the film can become cleaner and cleaner, and we can look at it. And it isn't that you're altering it in any way, you're just enhancing what's there because the technology's there to do it. And so he was looking at this particular film. And first thing he says, and again, I'll challenge you because you can have a look at that photo. Well, it's female.
Okay.
And when you look at it, it's quite obviously female.
Right.
Because it's got breasts.
Yeah.
As it turns, it's got breasts.
Okay.
Right, so first things first, right? If a couple of guys, and it would be a couple of guys, were going to fake a Bigfoot, do you think it would even enter their heads to fake it as a female?
I would say not. You wouldn't play dangerous, you'd play safe.
Yeah, so that's one thing that then makes you think, well, that goes in its favour.
Yes.
The other thing is, again, and there's always been a big debate about how tall that creature was. They took somebody out to the site who did a radar system of it.
Right.
So you could radar the whole area where it was. And believe you me, there's still a couple of items there that you can identify in the film. Like there's a stump, they call it the smiley stump, because it looks like a smiley face on it. That's still there, although it's very overgrown now. But from it, and from the film,
you can get its height.
They can get the height.
Yeah.
And the height of this was only 6.5 feet.
Okay.
Which is small by Bigfoot standards.
Yeah.
But does that again play into it? It's female. Females smaller than males, and it's usually males that are seen as 7 foot or more, etc., etc.
Yeah.
So again, that bit more supported evidence, I think, for that, because it is what it is. The third thing is, it says, look at this. And if you look at the legs or the arms as it's walking, if you can zoom real far in like they did, you can actually see where the muscles are and that in the legs. And you think, well, it could still be a suit, However, this guy says it's 1969.
Yeah, I was thinking.
He says they didn't have any material in 1969 that would do that. So even like the Chewbacca suits and things like that later couldn't do that, want of that high quality.
Yeah.
Says there was nobody could have made. Says even me as with all the resources laid in front of me, could not have made a suit in 1969 that did that.
Yeah. You've only got to watch old movies and go, that's
well,
Hollywood.
you're a big movie fan.
Not like the the horror, black and white horror era of monsters, and you're like, that werewolf is just a guy with fur stuck on. Yeah. So.
So that is that's the story really on that one. So I think that again plays into it being more evidential than it has been for years.
Okay. Well, that case has not been shut, has it?
It hasn't. It hasn't been shut. I do need to find this Russian one for you because I want to get this right because there's some awkward names and things like that in there, and I just want to do it justice. If we've got to do it right, we'll do it justice if you don't mind. I can read this and it'll give you an idea if that's okay. This predates the Patterson sighting. And the Patterson film, but it was in a part of Russia, and it was basically a group of students that decided they were going to go on an expedition, they were going to go over these mountains, out of term time, etc., etc., and just for the sheer hell of it, because they wanted to do it. Young people thought it was a challenge, thought it'd be something good to do. So it was January 1959. A group of young hikers set off on a journey through the Ural Mountains in then Soviet Russia. About a month later, all of the hikers were discovered dead and scattered around their campsite in various states of undress. To this day, investigators are not sure how exactly all 9 of them perished. The case has since been called the Dialatov Pass incident. Among the bizarre clues found around their bodies and the campsite, however, were 4 cameras.
Okay.
These photos of the incident were developed and used to piece together the events that lead up to the fateful night. Now, I sent you some pictures that we can show here. What I haven't done is put them all on, because if people are interested, go on and have a look. It is really some really interesting photos on there. The trip kicked off on a good note, according to Kolmogo. I can't pronounce that. Kolmogorova, a 5th-year radio engineer, a major at UPI, who had written as much of the group's joint journal. The group kept a handful of diaries throughout the trip, in addition to a series of cameras already mentioned. The mood on the train on the way there was reportedly cheery, and photos of the hikers before the incident occurred proved as much. When the friends and family of the hikers had heard nothing from them by February the 20th, a volunteer search party was assembled that eventually discovered the hikers' abandoned campsite. Here the search party found the group's belongings, including the cameras, which contained the final shots leading up to the incident. The tent itself was in a shambles, and there was no signs of any of the hikers. As the situation grew more serious, law enforcement got involved. The tent appeared to have been cut open from the inside. Meanwhile, 8 or 9 sets of footprints, seemingly made by bare feet, without any socks or shoes on, that were human, were also found around the campsite. The footprints led to the edge of the nearby woods, about a mile away from the tent. The first bodies of the group were found about a week after the tent was discovered. I won't go into the names because one of them was 23, 2 males, 23 and 21, who were both underneath a cedar tree. They're surrounded by remnants of a fire not too far from the destroyed campsite. One of the bodies was brown-purple and had grey foam coming from his right cheek and grey liquid from his mouth. The investigators then found the next 3 bodies. All 5, which included the 2 before, of the corpses were hardly clothed, despite temperatures between -13 to -22 degrees Fahrenheit. Some of the bodies were even found without shoes and wearing only underwear. Here the search party found the group's belongings, including the cameras which contained the final photos leading up to the incident. The tent itself was a shambles, as we'd said before. Indeed, the discovery of the bodies seemed to turn up more clues than it did answers. For one thing, there were gruesome conditions in which the corpses were found. Then investigators found the next 3 bodies. All these corpses, again, were semi-clothed. I'll just go on to the end rather than give you any more of this. There was a woman with them, a young female. She suffered significant skull damage moments before her death, had some significant chest fractures that could only be caused by an immense force comparable to that of a car crash. Her body was in the worst condition of any of the others. She was also missing her tongue, eyes, part of her lips, some of her facial tissue, and a fragment of her skull.
Now, my first thought upon hearing that was drugs.
Okay.
Imagine some 20-year-olds, right?
Yeah.
They take, I don't know, ayahuasca or whatever they could get their hands on. They go up, they have a paranoid moment in the tent. I can't undo this zip, they can't motor function right. So they cut their way out. They're half undressed because they're sweating, and they're cold, and having like a drug response.
Yes, oh, I like this.
Walking around semi-clothed, out of the face on acid, whatever it is. Maybe it kills them all. Then you're saying that the soft flesh that animals would munch on first, the tongue, the lips, maybe did one have a nasty fall? But then again, toxic reports, what were they like in those days? Up to scratch or what?
Probably not, but I'm sure they would have thought about alcohol and drugs. I'm sure they must have done that. What they found as well, which isn't in that report because I've read deeper into it, is that the girl whose tongue was missing, the tongue had actually been torn out, and it would have taken somebody with dexterous fingers to be able to and strength to be able to actually
or a large
animal, perhaps.
I don't know.
But that's what they say. They also say that some of the bones were split open as if they'd been trying to eat the bone marrow inside. The first two bodies that were found, which were nearest camp, looked like they'd come back or were trying to come back to camp after everybody, and they'd actually they were wearing other people's clothes, so they'd actually gone back and taken clothes off some of the other dead people to try and keep themselves warm. But it was as if they were still scared to go back to the tent where the tent was. And the tent, when you see some photographs of it, was completely flattened. Now this goes back to stories of if somebody's on their territory with a Bigfoot, they throw things at them, they throw rocks at them, they flatten, like they did with the miners. However, the Bigfoot tend to drive people away. These are what you would, or in the area where it would be called a Yeti or an abominable snowman or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Are these one of the same? Are they a more aggressive breed? Mm-hmm. Is food a lot harder to come by there, so that they're more likely to
go for humans
as more of a meal than anything else? And the key thing is, on one of the photos, and I don't know if you saw it when I sent it to you, I'll show you it now.
Yeah.
But on one of the photos that I sent you, only one that they found, and again we can put that up on the on YouTube, which is a really interesting one. There is, when I found your name, Chris. There we go. On the photos, there was that photo.
Now this is from that one. Okay. Again. Well, yeah. So you wouldn't fake it and kill yourself and have all that scenario, would you? Yeah. Is that a person wrapped up in?
It's big.
Snow gear. Yeah. Yeah. It looks human. It doesn't stand like an ape, but like you're saying.
It is the classic Bigfoot
they are human,
type of. It is a Bigfoot type. When you look at people's photos of Bigfoot,
I mean, yeah, that's a shame that it's gone into focus on the things in the foreground.
They do in the diaries as well. There's mention of the Watchers.
Compelling. I mean, there is no zooming in. No one has been able to clear up the photo. I wonder where the original photos are now.
It's Russia, isn't it? It's hard to come, but that is the.
It's interesting, isn't it? It's very Blair Witch, like the last found footage.
It'd be a great film.
A good film.
It would be a good film, but that is that.
Yeah.
And that was on one of the cameras, but it is mentioned in the Journal of the Watchers.
Well, I mean, I want to dig deper on that case.
Well, yeah. That's one for you to look at.
Yeah. Well, the hope of this is that Si will present these cases, and then we'll come back together after doing some research and see what we've found. I mean, you've probably researched it, but I will do my.
But I'd like to leave you that one.
Yeah.
That one's a good one. Is that one?
Okay, so that's Yeti-esque.
Yeti-esque. I'd say that's Yeti. Again, is it the same species? Is it not? Is it a mountain gorilla compared to a gorilla in the jungle?
Yeah.
Is it is there that much difference? Are they the missing link that people keep going on about?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I look forward to looking into that.
So that's quite a good one. Is that one? It's quite an interesting one. There's quite a bit of reading that can be done on that.
Yeah. So what's next?
What's next? Let's get off Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Let's get off Bigfoot. Let's go on to a classic that everybody's heard of. Let's talk about Mothman.
Mothman. Obviously, I've seen one or two films about the Mothman. Mothman Prophecies.
Mothman Prophecies.
That is the one.
That is the main film.
America.
Yeah, in America again. A lot of these things are in America.
Yeah.
What do you know about it then?
What do I know about it? I'm thinking it looks insectoid but human. It flies. That's about as much as I remember. It's in a certain locale. It's very much this is the area of the Mothman, and it's big in town. It's like, hey, watch out, it's dangerous.
Even now, you go to the town and it's huge. It's like they have Mothman Day.
But then Loch Ness, isn't it?
It is. It's exactly the same sort of thing. They have a nice statue there and all this.
But where did it begin?
It was the 50s and 60s again.
Okay.
Cold War time. Interestingly, in that area was a huge army or military facility, probably want of a better word, built in like these swamps that nobody really wanted to go into because it were like, but they stored lots of TNT and practiced with explosives, and there were a lot of secret stuff like that going on there.
Right.
Probably not talking nuclear stuff, but more your standard explosive type of thing, that they were trying to develop better munitions, bombs, ways of blowing things up, etc., etc. That's all gone now. Because I've seen programs about it, but there's still structures there. Some of the structures are weird, man. They're really, really strange, like big domes, and you go inside, and it's just absolutely weird. And there was a TNT factory there as well, and perhaps that's why the military chose that site, because it was easy to get the TNT or the explosives from a factory that were already producing them, so that they could then go and do some more experimentation and things. So that area was known for that. It wasn't a very affluent area. People weren't rich. It wasn't, it was just a normal sort of downtown American thing. And then one night, some kids saw this creature. And this creature they describe as bat-like almost. Not much of a head. Or perhaps no neck.
Yeah.
Red glowing eyes.
Okay.
Screeching.
Ah.
Right, making a noise, scaring them. They'd gone basically, two couples had got to make out in the mate's car. Quiet place.
Quiet, right.
And this thing just turns up out of nowhere.
Screeches, scares them off.
They start driving down the road. And this lad said he was going very fast. So if he's saying he's doing 80, we're probably doing 50. But you know, it's but this creature kept up with them in flight.
In flight. All right. Well, that's like we're talking 5-6 foot thing.
5-6 foot tall, bat-like wings that fold.
Okay.
And again, some people say feathers, some people say scales. It's hard to tell because nobody's really got that good a look of it. But then it kept being seen in the area.
I believe that's the case, yeah.
And
it wasn't
lots and lots of people spotted it. There's all sorts of stuff that's been sort of mixed in with the mythology there as well. So these reports of people seeing the Men in Black at the same time, and things like that, which I tend to just probably say
things
no.
get put upon, don't they?
Yeah, but and stuff like people say the sort of Indrid Cole, which is I don't know if
Don't
you've
know what
come
that
across
is.
Indrid. Indrid Cole is a man,
Okay.
a person, but he is the origin of the Men in Black in a way, but Indrid was supposedly alien himself.
I mean, how do you unpick this? You know?
Alien is, and he's also known as the Grinning Man
I've heard of that.
he had a big grin, and they were just like.
Okay.
So Indrid Cole, the Grinning Man, the Men in Black, they're all sort of associated with you. Let's not go down that road. I'm not ready for UFOs yet. I'm pretty sceptical about cryptids. Everybody, but the UFOs will
come to that one.
We'll come that another day. But they're sort of wrapped up in this story or in the mythology, or some people have said there were. But there were lots and lots of sightings. Scared the shit out of people, basically. Yeah. Really, really scary. And these sightings were, you know, your average Joe. They weren't like, you know,
townsfolk, weren't they?
They were just normal people.
Yeah.
You know. So what do you claim? Mass hysteria?
If something has flight, that is such a bold claim, isn't it? If you're going to make up a story, let's say, you're mistaken, you're not going to go that far. You'd think, I can't say it's flying, you know? Bigfoot, it ran after us, but I think that's pretty substantial because it's not just one person, a group of kids. It is I know a lot of people have said, I saw this thing with red eyes.
With red eyes. And the key thing is it has glowing red eyes. And that, there's two key things about it is, whether it's got a head or not, it's got glowing red eyes and it's got bat-like wings and it flies.
So huge
7
bird. Now birds can be big.
There's certain cranes.
Vultures.
There's some huge cranes. There is some huge cranes out there, and some people have said that it could possibly be a crane. But with the type of eyes that cranes have, you wouldn't get even if you shone a torch, you wouldn't get.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. Cat eyes, where you get that glare.
You wouldn't get a red eye glare back because they've done that. But cranes could have been some of the sightings because once somebody says, "I've seen it," everybody's looking for it. You see a crane go past and think,
"I've seen it as well." That's true. Once you put that in
so
there.
there's some of that, but there were a lot of sightings of it landed, of it taking off, of it keeping up with cars, of it, you know, even jumping on top of cars, screeching, landing in trees in people's gardens, and it was the key, the red eyes thing. Now, the key thing that it has been associated with is that it's a harbinger of something bad going to happen. So when you see Mothman, when he appears, something bad. It's almost like he's come to announce that something bad is going to happen.
Well,
that is what one of the stories that they go with.
That's just scary folklore, isn't it, though? Nothing is created by whoever creates us to be a sign.
But perhaps I agree with you.
Do you know what I mean?
Perhaps I agree with you.
I'm going to create this thing that you only see. It's just black cats crossing your path. It's superstition that we bring, surely.
But then, over Christmas one year, on the year where all the sightings had started, people were crossing the bridge into town, over the river, and it was a bridge that it was often seen stood on top of. The bridge collapses.
Bridges, accidents happen, tsunamis.
Kills quite a lot of people.
Yeah, once.
I agree.
How many Titans have there been of it?
After that, it's not really been seen.
Oh, it hasn't been seen?
No.
Okay. I'll see what I can find when I look
There's
that up.
occasions that it's still seen.
Yeah.
And again, is it there because something bad's got to happen?
I mean, it's got to be bad for a lot of people then. You can't be like, I lost my job after seeing it. You know.
Were it giving it so many sightings because it was going to be a really bad thing?
Yeah, that's backwards making it fit.
I don't know.
I've not read up on it, so
I'm just, it's a suggestion.
So it could be a harbinger of doom.
But what I would say, again, there's some photos that I sent Chris of this thing. There's one of them that's really suspect, to be perfectly honest, which is one where there's some lightning in a water tower.
The most
and to me,
suspect.
That's a really suspect.
Lightning is a split-second capture
that's
for a start.
That's a real suspect photo, is that?
Okay.
So I'm throwing that out. I'll just put it in because I thought that's
cool.
quite an interesting photo. We also got that. And to me, that's an owl.
That's just a normal...
Right. That's an owl, but people... Oh, no.
Yeah.
But the other one, if I can find it on here somewhere, this one is more interesting.
Yes, that looks like man dressed as bird.
In the sky.
Yeah.
With no head, hardly.
Yeah. It's the legs, I suppose, what look the most unhuman.
Yeah. And what I have done is I've put them together on that one so you can see the difference between the owl.
Yeah, one's a bird for sure.
Yeah.
And
the other one, I'm not so sure about that.
Yeah.
Because if it were a crane would tuck its legs in, it wouldn't.
Yeah, and the legs are big, decent heft.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's...
Now, somebody's taking the picture of that.
Yeah.
Is that photographs, not video?
That's photographs.
And it's like, I've seen the Mothman, take a picture of it. Where did it go? Yeah, it just flies off, I suppose. You can't keep up with them, can you?
But there has been lots of other sightings in various parts of it. I had one, I don't know if you remember this.
I know you have a story.
I have a story.
Yeah.
And it's going back quite a while. We were doing a event for Malcolm Hanson, who just wrote a new book.
Yeah.
And we were at the pub, White Line, is it called? I forgot what it's called now, that pub in Bingley.
The Fleece or the
on
Brown
the bridge.
Cow?
The one on the
Brown Cow.
bridge. No, I thought it was it could have been the Brown Cow, yeah.
On the riverside?
On the riverside, it was the Brown Cow. And he'd done his speech, and then we were talking to people afterwards. And this lady, who actually looked somewhat out of place there, I thought, she was very well dressed, quite well to do, I would have put her. Probably in the late 60s, early 70s, on her own. She wasn't with any of the other groups, but she decided to come along. Took me on one side and were asking me about ghosts and this, that and the other. And she says, have you ever seen anything with glowing red eyes and bat-like wings? And I'm like, not personally. She says, tell me more, tell me the story. And she says, well, I don't have any children. She says, but I was very close to my niece. And basically, from what she said, I got the impression that she brought a niece up and, they had almost a mother-daughter relationship. And she says, she'd gone off to work abroad. And I'd gone out into the garden one night. And there was this thing stood there, very tall, about 8 foot, glowing red eyes. It opened its wings, so there was, which were bat-like, and just shut off. But it looked at me. It was almost waiting. She felt that it was waiting for her to go outside, and she something compelled her to go outside. Waiting for her to come out, and once it had looked at her, it went. She'd found out a couple of days later that her niece had died that evening in not very nice circumstances.
A harbinger of bad news?
A harbinger of bad news.
Okay.
Perhaps.
Yeah? Okay.
Perhaps.
So a woman who's...
What I'd be more interested in is hearing more stories like that.
Yes. Yeah. Let's see if that was England though.
That was England.
Yeah.
That were, well, Eldwick, I think it was. So, yeah, very close to where we are now, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was...
And you also told me that you once saw a big cat.
I can tell you that story.
Yeah, that's where I thought you were going then.
Well, we could do that. But I think they're explainable. I don't think they're cryptid-ish.
All right.
Well, I suppose it could be. But I think there's a lot... you've heard of the Beast of Bodmin Moor and all this, that and the other. But I think a lot of this goes back to the 50s and 60s. People used to be able to go and buy a tiger or a lion in Harrods.
Jesus, did that?
Yeah, you could go and buy a lion cub in Harrods.
Wow.
Right? Seriously, you could just... There were no laws about protected species or dangerous animals or things like that. People could just go and buy these things.
Crazy.
Right. Now, I think what has happened is lots of people had them. Some of them escaped. When the Dangerous Animals Act and things were brought in, some of them were let loose.
Yeah.
Yeah. You've also got certain people who do keep things like that illegally as well, or will import them illegally and they can get loose. And I think there is probably enough in the UK for them to be to breed just enough for them to. And you think about it, the food is out there for them.
Oh, absolutely. There's no
look at all
problem
that
with
deer.
Yeah.
Look at
rabbits.
all that. And I was driving home from Barnoldswick one night, and there's a little shortcut I know because I've got I had a Land Rover at the time. A little shortcut I know on some farm tracks, and it brings you out basically by the salt and pepper pot. And it's a nicer drive, especially when it's summer and we're just like. So I had the rag top down on my Land Rover, driving, and I'm going down this road, and as I'm driving down this road, this cat slinks over one wall. It was black or really dark. Tail was a U shape, not overly long, but long enough U shape. I'm going down, and it was a diesel Land Rover, so it's not quiet. It was probably about 30, 40 yards away from me. I'm like, what's that sort of thing as you do?
Talking?
Huge. You'd be talking from nose to before its tail, probably about 2 to 3 feet. And then the tail was probably another 4. And it sort of looked round, and it was in the middle of the road. Okay, it's only a single track road, and it leapt from the middle of the road and cleared the stone wall at the other side, the dry stone wall.
Yeah.
Now, dry stone walls are all about, I don't know, 4 or 5 feet perhaps. To keep sheep in and that, and it just cleared it.
Yeah.
I was like, wow. And I got to the point where it cleared the wall, and we're about to get out, and I thought, that is to look for it, and that is the most stupid thing that I possibly could have done.
Yeah.
So I shut the door. I tried to see over the wall, which was impossible. I was like, and so I'm driving on. I'm like, did I see that? Is it something I saw? Is it real? And you almost try to convince yourself, oh, was it just a big cat?
Yeah.
And it was like, no, it's bloody huge. Was it I want a dog. And you're trying to do that. And anyway, the day after I thought, I'm going home the same way to see if I can see it.
Yeah.
And there's a DEFRA van, Department of Environment and Fisheries.
Okay.
Right, parked just about where I'd seen it. On grass verge, and he's on the roof rack of his car with some high-powered binoculars
Oh.
looking round, and I'm like, I wonder what he's looking for.
Yeah.
So somebody else must have seen it.
And reported it, yeah.
And there's lots of reports of big cats. And I think, do you know what I think they are? They're just big cats.
Yeah.
And again, I think, leave them alone, they won't. You won't even know they're there.
Yeah.
Everybody will be walking past them all the time.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
I honestly think that.
Yeah.
You know, and they don't have to take sheep, although I'm sure they do, and lambs, but because there's so much deer and stuff, hares, rabbits.
Yeah.
There's so much food out there for them that it's unbelievable. But yeah, that's quite an easy one, I think.
But still impressive, because,
Yeah, I think it is quite impressive. But it was just a big cat, and that's what it was, definitely. And there'll be a mixed species of interbreeding between, you know, jaguars and all this and the other. I think that people have had, because you know that you can have, like, you know, people have bred even lions and tigers and got ligers or tigrons and stuff like that. So I'm sure something's been going on in the wild, and, you know, what they say, Jurassic Park, life will always find a way. It's as it is. So I do think there's, you know, hand on heart, I think there's big cats out there because I've seen one.
Yeah. That's fair enough.
And that's my.
So just to bring you back to fairies, because we're not too far from the Cottingley fairies, which was a big deal, and then was a hoax.
Yeah.
Okay. But I know a person who we both worked with who, hand on heart, believes in fairies, and even in Ireland, there's a person whose job it is to keep the little fairy houses all intact. What do you think about that? Is that cryptids?
Well, yes.
There's no photographic evidence whatsoever.
There isn't really. I mean, if you look on the internet, you will see some photos that people have taken and videos that claim to be fairies or fairy men or whatever they are that's there, which are quite interesting. But again, it's same as ghosts and what we do in it.
Yeah.
It always looks fake when it's on the video, and you know, you have to be there. I think, and you do have to be there. I always thought that I was always under the impression, but perhaps I'm wrong now, that they're sat to me in the realm of elementals, like, but I don't think they do. I think there's something quite different, and I think they probably sit more in the cryptid pool than they do probably in the elemental pool. Again, am I a believer? Well, I'm very sceptical. But you look at, you know, Rumpelstiltskin.
Yeah.
You know, this all these old folk stories and all these old fairy tales. There's always some fraction of truth in there. There's always something that, and with the fairy stories, it's always that they're trying to really steal children, isn't they? They're trying to get people like Rumpelstiltskin tried to do. You know, here's one that people probably don't even think of: Pied Piper of Hamelin.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a Pied Piper. Everybody thinks he's a human, but couldn't he have been an elf or whatever he was? And he got rid of the rats, but he didn't want to get rid of the rats. He wanted the kids, and he took the kids away and kept them under a hill.
Yeah. I don't know. It's something I've not looked into.
And these are now. This is where I said to you, we've got to get a little bit weird at the end. And I've got some stuff on my phone that I'm going to show you, and this is one of the things that I've got to leave you to research.
Oh, wonderful.
Right, is we both go on a slightly strange Facebook page where people tend to put evidence that isn't evidence.
Yeah.
And everybody sort of laughs and you sort of put, well, yeah, note that pledge won't fix when it's orbs and, and things like that. And then some people get snotty about it and this, that and other. Now I have noticed on that page, I have been putting things that they say are creatures.
All right.
I wouldn't say fairies, but borderline sort of leprechauns, fairies, that type of thing. They're always really badly out of focus. It always, when you look at it, you think immediately it's pareidolia.
Yeah.
It's, a classic one that looked like this creature going, it were actually a squirrel. I don't know if you saw that one. But there's one on there that's like that, which is quite fun. And it's you can tell, as soon as you see the squirrel, you can't not see the squirrel, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
It looks really strange when you look at it.
Yeah.
God, what is that? And then you see the squirrel and you go, it's a squirrel. And so you can see how some people get carried away.
Yeah.
However, and again, with the ghost stuff, I always say, I'm not psychic, I don't have any special sort of like that. But I think over the years, you get a feel like a fisherman does when you go into somewhere. You can feel if it's. So I'm sure you feel the same now. You can feel if somewhere's haunted.
Maybe.
Yeah.
You certainly know when there's activity happening because you feel cold or whatever.
Exactly.
Telltale signs.
There is telltale signs.
Yeah.
A bit like when you walk into a room and somebody's had an argument and you can pick.
Yeah.
You can pick up that somebody's.
It's a vibe.
Yeah. There's something there. Now this guy on the site had put these photos on, and usually I just scroll past because they were all badly out of focus.
Yeah.
And they were all like, and I was just like, I went back and it was like, there's something about these photos.
Right.
And I'm looking at them and I'm like, no, you're fooling yourself, Si. You're fooling yourself. And because some of the comments, and I can be quite rude and on that site, because I do put some stuff on there that probably I shouldn't. So I'm usually cutting, to the bone and stuff like that. And I'm like, so I messaged him.
Cool. All right.
And I says, I think it's pareidolia. I think this, that, the other. I said, but there's just something about your photos. And he sent me some videos that are equally as bad. Yeah. That you can't really make out on. He's sent me this story about, he'd had a couple of drinks and this, that, and the other. So he was dead honest with me. But he thinks there was something in these woods in this area where he was that were creatures. The trees were talking to him. There was something that were growling at him out of a tree, that were fairy-like, shall we call them fairy-like, but creature-like, that were messing with him, trying to capture him, trying to keep him, and there's lots of stories over the years of fairies trying to capture people and keep people, and then releasing them years later, and they're still kids and things like that. And you look on the internet, there's loads of it. Yeah. And it is very, very strange, and it is one that I would normally go. But there's something about this guy's testimony when he's talking to you. The pictures and the video are rubbish, and you'll see him, and there's no. But there is something about it as well. Is it another dimension? Is it somewhere where it's just closer than it is in other places? That the walls thinner. That perhaps things can slip through and slip back. Yeah. Is that the case? Is that the case with all the fairy type things? Could it be that? Or are the real cryptids? Are they actually creatures that can hide and are living and breathing and things like that? I don't know. It's something that is interesting to me. And I'm going to show you these videos, and you can have copies if you want to put them on. Yeah. And this, that, and other, because he says I can use them. However, they're not great. I'm not trying to build them up or anything like that. They're usually something that I would skip past. Yeah. But for some reason, and I don't know why, they've just latched onto. There's something that makes me latch onto them and think. Yeah. Perhaps. Okay. Okay.
Well,
So that's the that's that for you. That's your other research.
yeah, if you send
on
me
that
it.
one. I will. Well, I've got it here. I'll show you it before we go. We'll have a look at it, and then you can do it, and we can do a follow up at some point.
Yeah. Okay. So is that your stories for today?
Well, I think so. I mean, are we all right? Have we done enough? Is it?
Yeah, hour and 10 minutes.
Yeah. So it's about right.
Yeah. So we'll depart. We'll get some research done. We'll have a follow up, and I will hopefully present you with some evidence.
Yeah, absolutely.
And see what we can find out.
You've got to have a look
cases.
at the Russian one with the students that all got killed.
Yeah, that does intrigue me.
Yeah.
Going to go ahead and start recording from here because I've never seen anything like these trees and I don't know if they're dangerous or not. And there's also about 150-pound black panther or something. Look at that tree moving away from me. You see it moving away from me? This is amazing. What's up, guys? What's up? Look at this guy right here. It's almost like they have eyes and shit. What's up, guys? See if I can get that panther's massive. What you doing, guys? Sorry to bother you. Sorry to bother you there, big fella. Oh no, that's not a good sign. I can't see the panther.